I think it really matters that we adopt a good cap and trade bill or a revenue neutral carbon tax, which I think is probably politically infeasible. I think there should be longer term tax credits for investments in clean energy. The wind and solar credits, the things that ought to be done for geothermal, this is purely an artifact of the federal budgeting process, that they only get these 3 or 4 or 5 year tax credits. So if any of you can figure out how to help change the Congress on that, it's be a good thing. I think it would be a very important thing if the federal government would mandate more rapid shifts in lighting. There are 15 appliances that there's technology available that could immediately raise the appliance standards. It would make a huge difference. If the states refuse to do it, I think the federal government should mandate decoupling in every state in America so that we can have utility financed energy innovations. That would put a lot of my work out of business, and I would be the happiest person on the planet. There's always something else to do. I don't think enough money was devoted to upgrading the electrical grid, because we both have to make the existing grid that is where it ought to be with the capacity it ought to have more efficient, and we have to increase capacity in the areas, especially where the wind blows and there's no carrying capacity back to where it ought to be. I was delighted when the Secretary of the Interior approved the windmills off the coast of Massachusetts and the Atlantic Ocean. Nobody will think twice about running the grid out there, but the Energy Department has a 10-year-old study, or almost 10 years old, saying that enough wind blows from the Canadian border with North Dakota to the Rio Grande in West Texas border with Mexico to electrify, as I remember, somewhere between 25% and 50% of the country. And almost everywhere the wind blows, there is no carrying capacity. When I was trying to help Hillary in the election last year, I'll never forget, right before the Texas Democratic primary, I stood on the back of a pickup truck in Eagle Pass and Del Rio along the Rio Grande at rallies, and I measured, and we were at the airport, so I went over and measured the wind. The wind was blowing 46 and 48 miles an hour. And there was not a windmill in sight, and I could barely stand on the back of the truck. I think the federal government can do a lot more than has been done to create a market for electric cars and for hybrid cars. And we just thought that we could create a whole new market if we retire the federal fleet early, and it creates more business for recyclers. Now, there are lots of other things I could say, but I just wanted to emphasize those. I think the states and localities should do new building codes, should accelerate public building retrofits, should decouple, as I said. Since the federal government didn't do it, I think the states should set up these SBA-like loan guarantee funds to back up bank money released for building retrofits. I have urged the United States government to work with others to create the equivalent of the Global Fund on HTV and malaria for clean energy for developing countries. One of my partners in the Clinton Global Initiative has a village in Ethiopia where every single structure in the village is powered by a tiny solar reflector. I think symbols are important. I think evidence of success spurs people to take new risks and make new investments. The two hardest hit states in America by the housing collapse are Nevada and Arizona. Partly because a lot of their overbuilding was due to assuming the population trajectory of the previous 20 years would be manifest indefinitely in the future. They are two of the places that it would be easiest to make virtually completely energy independent. Why shouldn't we take something, and in Nevada there's a huge amount of political energy behind doing so across all parties and political philosophies. The same is true of all the Native American tribes in the western half of the United States and nearly any country in the Caribbean. On balance, I'm pretty optimistic, but I think I'd feel much better about our ability to get a good climate change agreement and to get China and India and America to sign on to it and get a good bill in the United States if I had been able to stand up here today and do nothing but read a list of 40 examples of where it was good business, or 50 or 60, without a single adjective or introductory paragraph or sentence. Those of us that don't have a vote in the Congress or a vote at Copenhagen, the most important thing we can do is to do. to answer the how question. Thank you very much.